You're watching E.T.N. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to shift a little bit, get back into some entertainment related stuff. It's been a lot of Godzilla talk here on the channel, and with good reason, as the movie just came out this past weekend. And there will be more Godzilla videos to follow, I can assure you, as I am working on them as we speak. But, you know, I wanted to look into what's going on with Star Wars. I was once a very huge Star Wars fan. It's tapered off over the years, and it has especially declined ever since The Last Jedi, and then just with the whole big mess regarding Lucasfilm and its status and the fans versus the production team and the studio. It's just been a big mess. But, you know, when the Star Wars trailer, the recent one came out, you know, The Rise of Skywalker, you know, I liked it. I thought it was a good trailer, and I'm definitely going to go see it. I want to see how this last portion of the saga ends. But it's been a while since I've kind of went out there and looked it up, and there were two things that happened recently. Actually, I believe they both happened today. Now, there's a lot of great channels out there that cover Star Wars for better or for worse, and I say that because a lot of their coverage, unfortunately, has to do with certain political views that are going on in the industry and certain feelings that they have towards the Lucasfilm. And you know, it's basically a very vicious cycle between the fans and Lucasfilm because of how they're trying to push some of their movies and how the fans feel about those pushes and those messages. And, you know, I try to avoid politics as much as possible, not because I'm not a political person. In fact, I consider myself to be very educated politically, but I know that when it comes to entertainment, that's not something we really like to talk about too much. And sometimes I feel compelled to discuss it. Other times I try to avoid it. But, you know, it gets to a point where sometimes you just got to give your opinion. You just want to say something. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what this video is about. Basically, two things took place regarding Star Wars today that I really wanted to speak about because it just kind of shows where this is right now with the whole Star Wars thing. It's kind of a mess. And the first one has to do with the actor who played Admiral Ackbar. And I saw this today on another video. It's actually been covered by quite a few Star Wars YouTube content creators. And, you know, it's really, really sad. But basically, the actor who plays Admiral Ackbar, Tim Rose, put out a video that is currently on Twitter. I have it here on this website. I'll leave the link in the description so you guys can check it out. But he basically expresses in not so many words, and I'm paraphrasing, how he felt very upset and cried while underneath the mask of Admiral Ackbar because he felt that Rian Johnson was kind of disrespectful towards the character and disrespectful towards Star Wars altogether. And, you know, I was reading the article, I listened to the video, and look, I have been very clear about how I felt about Star Wars The Last Jedi, how I feel about how Rian Johnson, in one way, just, you know, trolled many fans, and in some weird way I was entertained by that, but in the other sense I can completely understand where fans are coming from. I didn't think he was a great choice. I thought that he started strong with the movie and it just was a steady decline from the beginning. With that said, I don't know if I can completely destroy Rian Johnson for this. In fact, I don't even know if I will. Tim Rose has a right to feel the way he feels about what happened or how he feels his character was portrayed. In truth, Admiral Ackbar's biggest role in Star Wars was in Return of the Jedi towards the end when they were assaulting the Death Star. And he had that famous line everybody knows about now, which is, "It's a trap," and that became a meme and so on and so forth. So I'm not taking anything away from the importance of the character in that movie in particular. Then he was supposed to return for The Force Awakens. He never did, and then eventually made a very small return in The Last Jedi and died unceremoniously when Kylo Ren was supposed to be the one to shoot. One of the other troopers shot and blew up the ship. This is the scene where Princess Leia flew out and all the other characters flew out, Admiral Ackbar being one of them. And you know, it's tough. It's tough because I think what's happening now is that the Star Wars fandom has been transitioning. It's going through a transition period, and you have a lot of older fans like myself and other fans who, if you want to know how they feel, just go watch all the videos out there. There are plenty. And now these new fans that are more tuned and more liking towards the newer movies. Now, the newer movies haven't all been bad. I personally think Rogue One is probably one of the best Star Wars movies ever made and sits just under Empire Strikes Back for me. The reason I love that movie so much is because it's one of the few, if probably not the only, Star Wars movie that is as good as it is without relying on Jedi and Sith fights. You do get Darth Vader at the end as a nice Easter egg, but for the most part, the movie was very good well before that. That actually was a pleasant surprise if you were seeing the movie for the first time without being spoiled or knowing that was coming, which I did. To me, the movie was already great, and then when I saw Darth Vader, that was just a cherry on top. So, and it's unfortunate because I sympathize with the guy. I'm sure that, you know, the character means a lot to him. Being involved in this fantastic movie saga, I'm sure means a lot to him. And basically what happened was Rian Johnson, after he had his last scene, Rian Johnson gave him like a Millennium Falcon. You know how, I forget what they call them, but in Hollywood, when they say that's a wrap and they clamp the, whatever they call it, the name escapes me at the moment. He gave him something like that. It was in the shape of a Millennium Falcon, and basically asked him if he could say it's a wrap, you know, ha ha ha, it's a trap. And that just kind of broke his heart. You know, he thought, I guess he felt that he was going to have a more, hey, thank you for your years of service. Thank you for being part of this heritage is one of the words he used. And he basically got a short little, you know, almost like a meme comment. And, you know, it's apparent that he took it hard. I don't think, in my opinion, again, as much as I don't like what Rian Johnson did to Star Wars, I don't think he meant that to be malicious. I just don't. I think it is showing some evidence that Rian Johnson is probably a little bit more out of touch, or a lot more out of touch with what Star Wars means to certain people. And I think that's why you have this disconnect between the studio, a lot of the classic fans, and then some of the newer fans. And then you have the toxic fans, which don't help. It's a very vicious cycle. It's a very, very vicious relationship, unfortunately. And when you look at Star Wars videos on YouTube right now, it's more about what studios are saying about certain parts of the fandom and what fandoms are retaliating with. You know, you have instances where the studio has come out and have called the fans trolls, have told them it's not for them, and this and that. And then the fans get right back, and they go and in some instances, and not all of them, but in some instances, you have those fans that are indeed very, very vile and very vicious, and they essentially, in some ways, attack on Twitter or on Instagram, whatever the case may be. It's just a vicious cycle. And of course, this is not the only fans to be like this. I have experienced myself in the Godzilla community, myself being vilely attacked on messages because of how I reviewed Shin Gojira back in 2016. You know, so every fandom does it, but it seems like this has been a very consistent activity going on the last couple of years in the Star Wars community. And it's a very unfortunate. It's also one of the reasons I've fallen back. Not only have the movies just been declining in terms of entertainment value for me. I know that they still make good money. They always will. There's always going to be those dedicated fans that do not troll on the internet and constantly, you know, look up certain articles and certain updates. There are fans that just don't do that, that will just blindly go see the movie. And that's a large majority. There have been some evidence that the movies are declining financially. Obviously, Han Solo didn't do too well, but when Han Solo didn't do as well as they expected, that was blamed on fans. That was blamed on boycotts. And there weren't really any boycotts. There were certain people, YouTube creators, of course, as well, that said they wouldn't go see the movie. You know, that they personally were boycotting it. But I can say that these people were not intentionally going out there and calling for others to boycott the movie. So in terms of the Admiral Ackbar, Tim Rose situation, I feel for him. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of love there. He was there back in the 80s. But I don't think Rian Johnson did it maliciously to hurt his feelings. I think this is just proof that Rian Johnson is disconnected from what Star Wars means to many fans that have been watching it since it first came out back in the 70s. Now, the other side of this is regarding a Collider podcast host, Kristian Harloff. Now, I was subscribed to Collider for a little while. I actually kind of enjoyed some of their podcasts until, as I watched more and more, it became a little bit more political. In fact, I remember watching one segment where they were talking about the abortions legislations that were being passed in Georgia and other states now, where once a heartbeat is detected, you cannot abort the baby. And when I saw that podcast, that's when I hit the subscribe button to unsubscribe. Not because they were talking about it. You know, time and time again, people want to talk politics. I'm fine. That doesn't bother me as much as some bothers other people. But what really bothered me was that it showed just how uneducated they were in terms of what the legislation meant. They were sitting there basically talking about how if you were a woman that was raped they were talking about how if you were a woman who has a miscarriage, you go to jail, which is so fucking not true. And all you have to do to know the truth about what the legislation was just go and read about it. You know, very simple. So that's when I hit the unsub button. I just thought it was very disingenuous. And there were other moments it got a little bit cringy with the wokeness. I am not into the SJW thing. I'll be very clear right now. I think a lot of you know that, but there's a lot of new people here that may not know. So I'll probably just come out and say it now because unfortunately we're in a political climate where if you don't agree with people don't want to be associated with you. I think that sucks. I don't think that's how it should be. But let people get it out their system now if you don't want to be here, because I'm not into leftism or socialism or social justice. Not my thing. It doesn't mean that I'm hardcore right or conservative, but I definitely lean more that way because I feel that it's just a little bit more sane of an approach. With that said, Kristian Harloff went on a rant. Now, the rant was pulled down from the Collider channel. But there are plenty of YouTubers out there who got this on film. Excuse me. And two that I can think of off the top of my head was World Class Bullshitters, who actually has a longer segment, probably the longest one I've seen. And then Geeks and Gamers Jeremy has a 2-minute portion of the segment. But World Class Bullshitters has a longer one. Basically, he goes on this rant because he didn't get invited to a Star Wars event in Disney. I think it was a theme park of some sorts. And he was upset because he didn't get an invite. And he also was upset because he felt that Disney should have reached out to him and apologized and told him that they didn't have a spot. We're sorry, next time which I thought was very arrogant. Now, I don't know the guy too much. What I've heard from him is that he is a huge Star Wars fan, and he's been very knowledgeable in Star Wars lore and things of that nature, and that's all fine and well. He also said, and this is probably the one thing that's going to hang him for a while, is that he busted his ass being a Star Wars fan for the last 5 years or the last however many years. And that's pretty much what killed it, you know, for a lot of people who've seen this video clip, because that basically says that you're not doing this because you love it. You're doing it because you want access, or you're doing it because you want money or whatever. Then he went on, and this is why I'm talking about this, because I am a smaller channel. I'm not relevant amongst the big boys, but I do my thing because I like doing it. He said that, you know, you have people that don't have the views and don't have the subs count, and basically knocking smaller channels like myself, because some other smaller channels like myself did get access or did get invited. But that's because those channels specifically and directly covered just Star Wars. Kind of like Entertainment Talk Nation, for the most part, covers mainly Godzilla. Yes, I do branch out into other topics, and I have done plenty of other content. But let's face it, Godzilla has been the unofficial flagship of my channel. So that, I was like, really, dude? Like, that's what it's all about? Like, that, it just really, really arrogant and privileged. Like you feel like you have a right, or you're entitled. That's the right word, entitled, not privileged. And it looks so bad. I mean, I hope you guys get the clip. It's not on their channel anymore, but go to those other two channels, you'll see it. And you can look at his fellow podcasters. They look so uncomfortable while he's sitting there ranting. And it got to the point that his producer got on the mic and they were arguing on air. So, you know, and this is all surrounding Star Wars and all surrounding the whole Disney thing. And it's like, if I want to look up anything related to Star Wars, like the movies or any upcoming projects, it's hard to find any news other than fans complaining or the Lucasfilm calling shit to the fans and them going back and forth. And it's just so unfortunate. I mean, I have to imagine that George Lucas must be regretting selling this shit to Disney. I don't think it would have ever gotten this bad if he just kept it. You know, if he just kept it and said, hey, look, I appreciate you want to buy the rights to my project, my work, my life's work. But what I will do is I will allow you under my supervision to make more Star Wars movies. That's what I would have done if I was him. Or maybe he did do that and they didn't want that kind of agreement and they threw like millions and millions of more dollars at him. Who knows? So it's just kind of funny how you see like how these things are playing out. And again, I was a huge Star Wars fan, man. I'm talking like it was used to be up there with Godzilla for me. I mean, I remember dressing up as an Ewok, you know, for Halloween once. I mean, I was into it. When Force Awakens came out, I was there. When Rogue One came out, I was especially there because it was also Gareth Edwards directing it, who had just done Godzilla. And then this whole fan versus studio thing started. Then The Last Jedi came out, and it's just been on a decline. And I still have some hope. You know, I'm a big Old Republic fan as well, and I'm hoping that we do see an Old Republic series of movies and that they're done correctly and they're done right. And but who knows, you know, I'm not gonna hold my breath. I'm not gonna hold out too much hope. I don't know what the future of Star Wars has. I know we got this movie coming up, and I keep hearing rumors that one minute they're doing Rian Johnson's trilogy, the next minute they're not, and that they're going to do a Knights of the Old Republic, but it's not certain. It's just a big mess, and it's so unfortunate that what this franchise meant to so many fans has become basically a big fucking clusterfuck of people just arguing, and it sucks. It really sucks. And I'll keep my eye open on how things are going, but I won't. I think I'll just kind of sit in the back and watch and discuss things when I feel like I want to say something about it. But for the most part, it's just bad, and it's not all the fans. I mean, there are very passionate, a lot of passionate fans out there that are heartbroken about where this is going. Some speak about it, some don't. There are some vile fans that I wish would just fall back and let the studio dig themselves a hole. Let them talk the shit. Just try and fall back, and because if you go back and forth, it's not worth anything. It's not going to change anything, really. The only thing that's going to change anything is them not making money. So that's it. If they get to a point where they're not making any money, believe me, you're going to start seeing what you want. So, but anyway, that's it for this video. I just kind of wanted to say my piece about that because I feel bad for Tim Rose, but I don't think it was a malicious thing that happened to him. You know, I got to be fair here. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Rian Johnson, I don't think Rian Johnson meant to be an asshole towards him. And as far as Kristian Harloff, I mean, that was just bad move, very entitled. He sounded like a bitch. I hate to say that, but he sounded like a whiny little girl. It was really embarrassing to watch. And I felt so bad for his fellow podcasters. You could just see them sitting there looking so uncomfortable. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.